Movies mean way too much to me. Picking your favorite movies is like picking your favorite kids. These are my top 25 movies of the last 25 years. If you want to get to know me, watch these movies. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to me here on this channel. First, I wanted to give a list. I want to list off all of my honorable mentions right here. Great. Okay. That's the only time I'm going to talk of them because we're only doing 25. Number 25 is Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread. We're starting off with a hot take. I think that this is Paul Thomas Anderson's best movie. It's my favorite movie of his. This is a risky movie. This is a very funny film. Not many people find it as funny as me, but I feel like that's what PTA was going for. It's a little bit misunderstood and really shut out of the Oscars this year. This is my favorite PTA movie. I don't have like One Battle or even There Will Be Blood above this one, just because I usually engage a little bit more with how much I can connect to these characters and how much like heartfelt emotion is within the film. I feel like he does it the best here in Phantom Thread. Number 24, The Wrestler by Darren Aronofsky. Okay, you're gonna start to see a trend here. I love performance-based movies. This is one of my favorite performances of all time. Mickey Rourke, this is the performance of his lifetime. This captures like the post-stardom sports figure so well. How it can feel so empty. Where do you go in life? What did you do to get to the top? And what are the repercussions that you have to deal with now? A truly devastating movie. And you're gonna find out I kind of like devastation. Number 23, The Nice Guys by Shane Black. Okay, really sad movie, now followed up by one of the funniest movies of the last 25 years. The Nice Guys catches Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling doing what I think they're most talented at, is being funny. I know this movie has picked up a ton of steam in the last couple of years on film Twitter, Letterboxd. When this movie first came out, it was totally unrecognized. People weren't really talking about it. I don't think it did that well at the box office, but I do think this is like one of my favorite bromances on screen. Number 22, First Man by Damien Chazelle. Okay, another hot take. This is, I think, Damien Chazelle's best movie. This follows Neil Armstrong's life as he is trying to get to the moon and his family life and dealing with loss and grief. Claire Foy and Ryan Gosling in this movie are some of my favorite performances that I can remember when I was thinking back to movie couples within the last 25 years. This is an unsung movie that not nearly enough people talk about. People always talk about La La Land, obviously, because of all the Oscars. They talk about Whiplash. I think this is his most refined movie. This is what he should really lean into. I love Babylon. I love the chaos of Babylon, but I think when he really focuses in on his characters and leans on those relationships, that's where he like really excels. I'm excited to see what he does next. I hope it's more like this. Number 21, Train Dreams by Clint Bentley. Yes, we have a movie from 2025 on this list, and it's Train Dreams. This was my number one movie of last year. One of the most beautiful representations of a human life and a human experience that I've seen on film. Such a gorgeously shot movie, not using any exterior lights, only using natural lights. This and a couple other movies on this list capture exactly what I believe the essence of life to be, and it captures it in the most beautiful way. Looking back at last year, this was, I think, by far my favorite film, and it stood out amongst the rest by a good margin. Truly blew me away sitting at home watching on Netflix. God damn it. But now we have Paramount, right? So we can watch I Can Only Imagine 3 and 4 coming to theaters. Number 20, Get Out by Jordan Peele. This is one of my favorite cultural events of the last 25 years. When this movie came out, it's hard to really put into words how much of an impact it had on everybody going to the theaters. Jordan Peele coming out of nowhere, coming from Key and Peele comedy sketches, to doing a horror film like this that's so deep and rich with symbolism, themes. You can watch this movie 20 different times and come away with different ideas each time. I love Jordan Peele's other movies following this, I loved Us. I thought Nope was incredible. I just think going back to Get Out and how impressive it was what he did with the small budget and the small belief that he had from everybody behind him, it's truly inspirational. Number 19, In Bruges by Martin McDonagh. This is one of my favorite screenplays of all time. Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, Ralph Fiennes, all incredible performances. This movie captures so much all within one film. This is my favorite dark comedy of all time. There's not many directors that are able to really push home a point and a dramatic theme or an idea within the film while also making it one of the funniest movies to come out in the last 25 years. And only somebody like McDonagh can do that time and time again. Also a movie so obviously entrenched in these religious ideologies is something that's going to hit home with me every time, as I grew up in a very religious household and have battled with what meaning and God and everything here means. To be able to examine that in a hilarious screenplay with incredible performances, it makes it one of the best movies of the last 25 years. Speaking of religious guilt, number 18, Silence by Martin Scorsese. This one has not been seen by close to enough of people. It's not really talked about when it comes to Martin Scorsese's best films, but I think it is definitely like top 5, top 3 of his films of all time. Again, this is all about questioning your faith, questioning what you believe in, how you see the world, and what happens when somebody that brought you to your ideals walks away from it all. I feel like that this is the swan song of Martin Scorsese's career. All of his films led to this point, and I think it's truly a perfect film. Is it a fun movie? No. Eternally devastating. That's why I love it. Number 17, Waves by Trey Edward Shults. I think Trey Edward Shults is maybe the most misunderstood and underrated directors we have in Hollywood today. This is his best movie. I think all of his movies are great. Waves was, I think, my favorite theater experience I've had in the last 25 years of my lifetime. I will never forget when I first watched this movie, the sound, just sonically and visually, this movie morphs perfectly together. This movie eternally changed me. And again, I think it's like one of the more underseen movies and underrated films of the last 25 years. Number 16, No Country for Old Men, the Coen brothers. This movie, just from a technical perspective, is pretty close to perfect. It just feels so tight and wound with so much tension and incredible performances, especially from Javier Bardem. I think this is like one of the best adaptations ever. Only the Coen brothers could have done this film. And the ending scene with Tommy Lee Jones is one of the more haunting couple of minutes I've ever experienced. It didn't make me feel good, and I liked it. Okay, this one's a little bit more fun. Number 15, Moneyball. How can you not be romantic about baseball? Obviously, I'm a huge baseball fan. Sports movies, when they're done well, I think can rise above a lot of movies just because there's so much weight and tension just involved in athletics, but it is rarely done well. We did not have many good sports movies the last 25 years. I think that this is the best sports movie, maybe ever. And it's funny, I even saw this video the other day of Kirk Cousins talking about Moneyball and commenting on how the scene with him talking with the scouts at the table is exactly how they would talk. It's exactly how that conversation would go. And that just shows the specificity that Bennett Miller came to with this movie to make sure that those things felt perfect. Number 14, Her by Spike Jonze. Let's get lovey-dovey. I think Her is the most relevant movie like today. We're seeing exactly what he depicted in Her with people fall in love with their OS systems, AI. This is happening now, and this is, I think, a pretty realistic depiction of what might happen. Spike Jonze, you haven't seen like Being John Malkovich. There's always this like lightheartedness about his characters, about how his shots look, and so many funny moments in this pretty overly melodramatic film. Even though it is like a bit over the top at times, I feel like this comes from a very like natural and authentic place from Spike. And it leads to this spectacular ending that I'll never forget. Number 13, Moonlight by Barry Jenkins. Even though this movie won Best Picture this year, rightly so, even though they tried to give it to La La Land, and I still think that this movie is underrated. What Barry Jenkins did, tying in 3 different characters at 3 different times of his life, different actors, and it all feeling cohesive, the same story arc with the same character, feels impossible. But he pulls it off in the most like emotionally wrecking way that I still feel scarred from. I mean, I remember I was in a very different place in life 10 years ago when this came out. And I was getting into film, but I came into this movie after it had won the Oscar. And I honestly didn't expect to like it. That's just kind of how I was as a person based on where I grew up and what I believed in at that time. But I believe that the movies have the power to change your mind, to see somebody else's perspective and change yours. Have a little update. And I needed a little update. And this movie did that for me. So Barry Jenkins bringing that to life for a white kid in Iowa and changing his mind, it just shows how powerful this movie is. Number 12 is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind by Michael Gondry. I can go back to this movie so many times. It is so rewatchable, and the ending between these two characters haunts me to this day. Anybody that wants a movie to be able to look back on their past and what they went through, whether it was love or like a family member, whatever that means to you, appreciating that experience, but also appreciating the hard times with that relationship. This movie captures that perfectly. Number 11, Tree of Life by Terrence Malick. I think, if I'm being honest, that this is the one movie that everybody in the world should have to watch once. I feel like everybody would have a better understanding of why we're all here, what we mean to each other, what happens after this. This is, I think, the most beautiful and real film ever made. Does it have like a natural leading Hollywood script? No. That's not what this movie is about. It's not about having a character, a turning point, the point of no return, and then a redemption. No, this is just about experiencing life. And that's why I love this movie so much. Okay, top 10, here we go. Number 10 is Blade Runner 2049 by Denis Villeneuve. For a long time, this was my number one movie of my life. I still adore this film. This is like one of the greatest shot films ever by Roger Deakins. And all of the interwoven themes and ideas that were started by the original Blade Runner by Ridley Scott were extended on and improved upon in 2049. I do prefer this movie to the original Blade Runner. I think it's more tightly wound and its ideas are expressed in a much more coherent way, that this movie just does really mean so much for me. And it was kind of the impetus of me really diving into film and really trying to understand what movies are and what they mean to me. This was kind of the starting point when this movie came out. Okay, let's get deep and dark again. Number 9, First Reformed by Paul Schrader. This is a deep, dark look into the pessimist side of my brain. Paul Schrader, through Ethan Hawke in this story, examines where has God gone? And could God forgive us for everything we've done to his world? And we might not like the answer to that through this movie. This follows Ethan Hawke, who is a priest who's approached by this couple that is going through this crisis of faith and deep, dark depression because of what we've done to the world. He starts to have new ideas and thoughts and what does it mean to be here? What have we done to each other? What is God now? Where has God gone? What are we doing to this world that we're living on? These are all huge questions that I can't stop asking myself for the last 10 years. And when I went and saw this movie in a small Des Moines theater with just a couple of people, it was one of the more empty experiences that I've ever had. But it like empty in a way that acknowledges exactly how I felt and how I've thought about the world and where I was kind of going with my ideology. It hit that nail on the head perfectly. For a movie to examine those types of feelings and to understand psychologically what that does to you, this movie's perfect to me. Number 8, Zodiac by David Fincher. Sometimes you just have to appreciate the pure obsession that a filmmaker brings to a project. And it comes out in full display with Zodiac. This is as dense of a film as you can get, as far as like true stories and examining what may have happened with these strings of murders and how it can drive a man mad through Jake Gyllenhaal. This is just a masterpiece when it comes to precise storytelling. When you have a point and you want to tell exactly correctly, Fincher's your guy. I think all of his skills were at full display in Zodiac. Number 7, Ghost Story by David Lowery. You want to talk about underrated directors? Go directly to David Lowery. This, A Ghost Story, and also A Green Knight, I battle between which one I want to include, are just two magnificent films. And this Ghost Story, you know, kind of in the same essence-ish of A Tree of Life, examines death and dying and regret and afterlife and what happens after all this. What does this all mean? And it does it in a way where this is such a small movie. It's so contained, but at the same time, it gets super existential and it feels humongous and it feels like the whole world is being displayed and everything that's ever happened in the universe is being captured within this one movie in a brilliant way. This is like one of the first times I've really challenged what I believe about death and dying and what happens to us afterwards and coming to a better conclusion about that. But deeply woven within this story is one of the greatest love stories I've ever seen. And it's hard for me to even talk about the ending. This movie has such a deep place in my heart, and I feel like so many more people should watch it. Number 6, Parasite by Bong Joon-ho. I think that this is the best Eat the Rich movie ever. I have such a blast with this movie every time I watch it. Bong Joon-ho is an incredible director. The literalization of these characters running from down in their cellars up to this rich house and having to return back to it is some of these like themes and symbolism that I'll never forget. I think Bong Joon-ho is an expert director. I love Memories of Murder, Mother, Okja is a deeply underrated film. And it all came to a culmination of Parasite. And I think, again, the best Eat the Rich movie I've seen. And I love those movies. And this was deserving to win Best Picture. Number 5 is Oppenheimer by Christopher Nolan. Talk about another all-time theater experience for me ever. Seeing this in IMAX 70mm at the Chinese theater is something that I'll never forget, ever. One of my favorite life experiences ever. And admittedly, I'm not a huge Nolan fan. This is the only Christopher Nolan movie you're going to find on this list. And honestly, it wasn't really close. I didn't ever really think of putting Interstellar or Inception on here, but I think Nolan really found something within Oppenheimer. He was able to connect to his characters that I feel like he hadn't always done in his previous films. It felt like a lot more like the concept, but in a movie as important and as big of a story as this is, and something that really happened, he was able to connect. And that's why I think this is one of the best movies of the last 25 years, number 5 for me. Number 4 is Children of Men by Alfonso Cuarón. I actually came to this movie much later after it came out. You know, growing up, I wasn't allowed to see a lot of different movies. This is one I was not allowed to see. And visiting this in my late 20s was truly mind-blowing. This has a couple of my favorite set pieces and several moments of like, how did they capture that on screen? I think that these are the greatest crafted set pieces I've ever seen. This movie also has my favorite on-screen character by Michael Caine. Jasper is just somebody I've never connected to in that short of amount of time in film. Speaking of movies that I found later in life, number 3, A Serious Man by the Coen brothers. This movie rocked me when I watched it a year ago. I've seen it 3 times since then. I bought it immediately. This movie is as deep and dense and as funny as you can get within a screenplay while also asking the biggest questions life has to offer. This movie really put things into focus for me and brought, again, such a specific worldview and ideal to these characters and situations that happen in all of our lives that, trying to find answers. We're all just trying to find answers. Where are the answers? This doesn't make any sense. Why doesn't this make sense? This has probably become one of the most influential movies upon my lifetime with my worldview and my sense and sensibility about the world, about the universe. This is a big, big movie that doesn't feel like it on the first time because it's just a very funny, accessible movie from the Coen brothers. But when you dive deep as to what's actually going on within this film, it's truly life-changing. I love this movie and I can't recommend it more. It is the best Coen brothers film. Number 2, The Social Network by David Fincher. Obviously, it's been told a million different times that Fincher goes to incredibly deep lengths to capture exactly what he's looking for on screen, you know, whether it's the 99 takes or totally scrapping certain ideas or actors. But there's a reason he does it. It's because he knows that perfection is out there for him. And I think it culminated for him in The Social Network, a perfect movie. I don't say that lightly, and a lot of these movies on this list are definitely not perfect, but I think this is a perfect movie. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't take anything out. This is the quickest, tightest 2 hours you'll ever spend in your life. Fincher is the most underrated film director today. He doesn't have any Oscars. He didn't win any for this movie. And it makes no sense because this was number one for me for a very long time. What Fincher is able to capture just within camera, with movement, with sound, with his performances is the highest level that anybody can do it. Now, you're asking, why is this not number one if it's the perfect movie? Because number one is Arrival by Denis Villeneuve. I am guilty of how much I connect to a film emotionally often tells how much I enjoy that film. And there's something about Arrival and its ending and its characters that I connect to more than any film ever. The way you can watch this movie the first time, you see things on screen and you still don't totally understand how it all fits together, which is exactly the point. It reveals itself to the audience the same way it reveals itself to the characters within the movie, without it showing too much, but also the answers are all there, the entire film. And I feel like that's such like a beautiful subtext just for life. And it's spearheaded by, I think, one of the most beautiful and underrated performances by Amy Adams that we've ever seen. Also, another Deakins shot film that just looks better than everybody else. He's just better at it than everybody. And I think this is his most beautifully shot film. What they're able to capture on camera in a natural sense, while also being able to capture that supernatural essence of these beings coming down to Earth is just perfect. They couldn't have done it any better. And this is the film that means the most to me in my life. So it's number one of the last 25 years. Okay, there it is. My top 25 movies of the last 25 years. Thank you so much for watching. Please go ahead and subscribe if you like this video. Follow me here. Follow me on TikTok. We'll see you next time.